A hearty good morning to all faithful citizens of the Imperium. Colonel Hector Bravado of Breakup Gaming Society here again for part 2 of our look at Commissar Broderick Worr, one of the decks I built. Now, in our last video, we spent some time looking at Worr and his signature cards and how they represented the strategy. But today, I put my entire deck build for Worr out on the dissection table, so I can sort of walk you through the choices I made to synergize with Worr, who basically, his whole idea is to flog fanatical performance out of otherwise terrified and underpowered units in the desperate battles of the Traxxas sector. Now, what do we have here? I've separated into rows. That bottom row, those are army units. Those are the poor schmucks who go to the planets of the Traxxas sector to try to do the planet capturing and resource harvesting, and of course the fighting and the dying. Next, you'll see a row of attachments. These are cards that can be attached to other cards to give them some kind of benefit. They usually thematically represent some sort of physical gear or upgrade, but not always. Next, we have a row of supports. These go in an area of the play area called the HQ. They abstractly represent places where the sort of infrastructure of your faction gives you an advantage or two. Then lastly, events, which are nasty little tricks that can be played at certain points of the game. So when we come down to our units, Worr's ability, as discussed previously, was sort of to dig in on planets that have strong point features and make his otherwise cruddy units immovable. So who do we have here? A couple Sakhalim's finest, really good stats, and they have that neat ability that if I win a battle at a green planet, I can deploy these folks for free. A little support from the Battle Sisters. Steel Legion Chimera. This is an important part of the scheme. My strategy here, I decided when I was building the deck to sort of shape it in my mind, was how far could I run with the theme of damage avoidance. Here we have just general units that can be put out given minor buffs and maybe win me a command struggle or two to keep resources and cards coming in. I'm going to pause here and talk a bit about Celestian Amelia, one of the Adeptus Sororitas, or Sisters of Battle, or Nuns with Guns units in the deck. This was a card designed by Team Apoka. I'm going to talk about Team Apoka for a second. So when the game was canceled by its makers, a bunch of hardcore, mostly European players kept the game alive. They designed these cards. They expanded what they saw as needed gaps in some of the factions or some of the themes that Fantasy Flight had set up but never followed through on. Like most Apoka cards, it's got a lot of conditional text, and sometimes the cards are very situational, but darn if they didn't do it. They printed them, they designed them, they play tested them, and you could buy them on makeplayingcards.com, and they managed to do it all without drawing the ire of Games Workshop, who are notorious for being very protective of their intellectual property. So, and then we've got a bunch of specialist units who can quickly receive benefits from Worr's dig in and fight at ethos. Attachments, Dozer Blade. So let's talk about the damage avoidance scheme. Dozer Blade, I got 3 of those, so we could slap them on this Steel Legion Chimera. Here you'll see an example of the sort of thing I was going after. Look at that reaction. It just soaks up extra damage. So so somebody tries to target some of your infantry. True to form, this APC tank thing can soak it up, slap dozer blades on it, which is a zero cost attachment, and all of a sudden that thing gets an extra 2 hit points. It's that much harder to knock out. Blade of the Crimson Oath. Look at all that text. It's a really powerful attachment for the cost. 2 attack and 2 hit points. And it only costs 1, plus it's a 2 shield. That was sort of some of the power creep you saw with the Apoka cards. Then hostile environment gear. Look at that. Slap it on some dude for 1. They have 3 extra hit points. So the whole idea again here is to just make it so that we can dig in, become hard to hit. Holy Chapel, another Apoka card that represents the contributions of the Adeptus Sororitas. They invented a mechanic called Faith that's like a damage blocker plus, really hard. So you start sprinkling faith markers on your guys using the Holy Chapel, guys and gals. Rock Creek Bunker soaks up damage. Clear Cut Refuge can be used to boost a unit's hit points. You see the theme by now. This is sort of a one-off. Inquisitorial Fortress, not a cheap one, and to use it you have to actually sacrifice it. But just in case, there is so much firepower on the other side that even my damage avoidance doesn't work. I have a couple of these so that I can just spook a enemy right off the field. Then a couple events that I keep around for certain situations or for their shields. See those little skulls? That means the card has a dual use. You can either use all these effects here, or you can pitch it to block damage. Emperor's Warrant, it's a nasty little trick, very situational. Preemptive Barrage is almost a must include because it only costs 1. It has 2 shields, plus it lets you, if you have a big force, all of a sudden you can fire, make a bunch of attacks early in the ranged phase of a battle, and all of a sudden when your opponent thought they were going to maybe do away with you in close quarters, you start firing at them from distance, which is, of course, very thematic for the Astra Militarum, who are well known for not showing up to play without lots of artillery. So let's talk about one particularly annoying combo, just as an example of this damage avoidance thing. Going back to one of our Nuns with Guns heroes, Seraphim Superior Allegra. 2 command icons, that's what those hammers are, so she can help you get resources, which is good. Attacks for 3, takes 4 to kill, not bad. She's a soldier of the Ecclesiarchy. Look at the reaction. After this unit is declared as an attacker, ready a target support card you control. Nice. That means if I have Rock Creek Bunker in play, which I have to tap to use, or Clear Cut Refuge to tap to use, if I can get her to attack after having used, say, Clear Cut Refuge to boost somebody's hit points, her attack stands it up again. Then, before my opponent can attack in the next action window, I will then tap it again to keep adding more and more hit points to a unit. Now, those hit points expire at the end of the phase, which basically represents the fact that for a very short time, doesn't matter how many rounds or blades you put in a fighter, they're probably going to dig in and vanish into a pink mist at the end of the battle. But while you can still keep running that combo, it's just going to be a massive headache. There it is, War and his damage avoidance scheme. We're going to see this deck in one more time. And the context is, and this is how I would determine whether or not a deck was good, was I would test deal it again and again and again. So just to see if I remember how to run this scheme that I designed for myself, I'm going to come back, draw a hand out of this thing at random, show you an example setup of planets and what decisions I might make. Thanks for watching. The Emperor protects.